Welcome again, everyone. Thank you for taking the time this morning or this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are. Welcome to this lightning lesson around designing metrics that don't lie. Honestly, this is a little bit of a clickbaity title, but what we're going to talk about is exactly what it's saying. We're going to go into a framework around defining something called a True North metric, and then also the inputs that you can decompose into to help move that metric. So before we begin, my name is Hai. I'm the head of data at a legal tech company called Entra, and I previously worked at companies like LinkedIn, Pinterest, Nextdoor, Meta. I'm here joined by my, we call them co-hosts because we also host the podcast, Sean Butler and Sravya Metapali. Would you guys like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Hey everyone, I'm Sean, principal data scientist, the same company I works at. Been in data science for about 10 years.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sravya. I'm a senior manager in data science at Superhuman, previously called Grammarly. I worked, hi, Sean and I knew each other from Nextdoor, and I started my data science career at Microsoft. I was there for 6 years, and yeah, been here for a while, like more than a decade now, for sure. Yeah.
Cool, awesome. And yeah, so we also run a couple courses, and we'll have more information later in the slides. One on AI analytics for builders, effectively helping everybody, regardless of your profession, to be analytically independent and also leverage AI to actually execute on analysis on any analytics task to help you make better decisions. So that's a course that we run. And separately, Sean himself is also running an AI evals course for product development. So, in the age of AI development, the way to evaluate if your product is working or not is very different. So that's sort of like a dedicated deep dive around that. We have a lot of free lessons just like this one coming up as well, and all the course information you can find on dataneighbor.com. All right, cool. So let's get into it. So what are we talking about today? We are talking about obviously metrics. Who here have seen this problem here? You've got a lot of metrics at your company and you don't know what to do with them, or you don't know what they are.
Yes.
Type one.
How many metrics do you look at per day in the chat, or you're supposed to look at per day? You ever ask someone to like give you their metric and they give you like seven in return? You're like, no, which one?
I guess only Sergio faces this problem. Cool, and that's cool too. This is a very common problem, honestly, where we have dashboards, especially if you work in, for example, in tech. Um, there is a lot of dashboards around. There is even in Google Analytics has is a dashboard in itself, and if you go to the engagement tab, there's a billion metrics, right? Sarah, if you remember those different tabs where at least for me, when I looked at it, I'm like, what am I looking at here? What do they mean? Kind of stuff. So very common problem that a lot of teams measure either the wrong things or are measuring a lot of things. And so, like some would go up, some would go down, but really none of them focus on, hey, this is what you should be looking at so that you can measure whether our product, our services is actually delivering value for our customers or our users, whatever your business may be. This is very common, as I said, but very fixable. So we're gonna talk through how to think about it. All right. Actually, yes. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to highlight a very simple example here where metrics can also mislead, which is actually worse than if you have a lot of metrics and you don't know what to do with it. The scenario here is we measure something called daily active users. Are people familiar with what that is? Have you heard of it before? So roughly something about how many times, or like if a person has shown up to your product or business, and we count that as kind of like a DAU. So it's a very a very common metric for a lot of companies like social media in the social media space and just generally. So let's say, like the scenario here is we saw daily active users went up 30% and everybody celebrates, right? So it's like, oh, wow, great, up and to the right. And then down the line, we're like, oh, wait, hang on. Turns out a lot of it is bot traffic. So like these are not humans. I guess in today's world, it's a little less like an anomaly. But previously, when only humans browse the internet, like bot traffic is real, and that is not something that we care about. And so, like probably the team could be making decisions off of the DAU trend for the last however many months, and then let's say they saw, okay, yeah, we will launch this feature, and then it drove a lot more visitations. So we keep building and doubling down on it, and then 3 months later, they're like, oh wow, this is actually not true, not real traffic. So they wasted 3 months building on a false signal. So that is actually very common. If the metric defined upfront that guides the roadmap or the plan is not actually pointing towards the right thing. So better metric judgment would have saved them. Again, this is a very sort of like a very simple high level example, but this happens all the time and more times than companies and teams are willing to admit. Cool. Okay. So today's framework. So what's our solution? Solution is to equip you with a framework that you can take home to follow every single time when you have to define metrics. So this is what's called the True North plus inputs framework. This is used by a lot of companies in the Silicon Valley. So Airbnb, Slack, Netflix, and many others have been modeled off of the exact same framework. So sometimes you might have come across a term called North Star metric. It's synonymous with True North metric. So either way, it's fine. Basically, step one is to define what's called True North metric. So one metric that captures the core customer value of the products or services that you're offering. So like this is basically think hard to the end state of what you're building. What would it mean when you have delivered value by the end of it? And is there some sort of way to measure that? That is sort of like the True North. So this actually takes a lot of time, a lot of debates, and sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's really not. So focusing on this is going to lead down to sort of like number two and number three here. Number two is once you have a True North metric defined, then you can decompose it into what's called input metrics. So actionable levers that teams can actually pull to influence the ultimate True North metric. So we'll get into some examples just in just a little bit. And then how do you actually then define those input metrics? You can actually do this decomposition, which is number three. It's called the BDEF decomposition. We'll explain what that stands for. But almost all inputs you can imagine would be very similar, have similar flavors that falls into one of these four buckets. So that's going to be a checklist that you can that we'll go over in just a little bit. So the key insights from this slide, from this entire framework, honestly, is that the True North is the outcome that you measure, and inputs are the levers that you can pull to actually influence that outcome. Does that make sense to folks? Yes, no, one, two, one for yes, two for no, three for I did not pay attention, and that's okay. Cool. Okay.
Lots of ones.
How north would be the True North metric? As north as possible. So meaning as close to value as possible. That's the way to think about it. And if it's not possible to measure that, go one step south. If you can't measure that, go one step south. Kind of like doing it, think of it like that. I'm just painting it like conceptually here.
Yeah, the way I kind of think about it is and kind of how I got into this, but like I think about like what's the person as a human trying to do in their actual life, irrespective of the product. Like imagine your product doesn't exist. They're trying to get something and they're trying to like get entertained, maybe if it's social media. They're trying to get some workflow or some job done, some task. Like define that. And then like Hai said, is like, can you translate that to a behavior that's represented like some like signal for that in your product? And then a lot of things you can't. And that's when you keep go you and then if you can't, you can build it. You can try and build that signal into your product. You can work with your engineering teams trying to build that way to capture that. Otherwise, keep going south.
Yep. Good question though. All right. True North is the metric that captures core personal value of specific multiple products that a company might have.
Each
Yeah.
product to have its own North Star metric, and then you could have like a company North Star metric too. But sometimes it's harder with the company stuff because that's a lot more lagging. So it's a trade-off of like you want a North Star metric to be something you can like kind of get a vibe on in like weeks, not like months or quarters. So when you start going to like a holistic kind of company value, um, sometimes you don't get that signal till later on.
One other thing I'd like to add, along with what Hai and Sean just added, is uh, generally core customer value will also be linked to what business gets value out of. For example, Meta's daily active users means more activity that says users are, benefiting from the product, which is amazing, which is the core customer value here. But it also implies more ad revenue from these people coming in and more revenue and, Meta's like actual business value going up as well. So mostly there's a big correlation between true North Star metric where and the business like what the business gets out of getting the North Star metric up as well.
Cool. Let's move to the next one here. So, okay, bad versus good True North metrics, and here are just some examples of it. Again, I'm using an AI tool. If you guys are aware of it, Gamma. I don't know how to do animation, or else it would have been a lot more suspense. You can imagine, but like now it's like all wide open. So on the left, we have the bad ones, and on the right, we have the good ones. The bad ones could actually be a lot of these things that most people think are good metrics. So, for example, daily active users, revenue, and signups. Like these sound pretty reasonable, right? Like most people report on one flavor or another of something like that, but they're actually not good true norths, and we'll get into why that is the case. The really good True North metrics are things around, for example, for Airbnb, it's how many nights are booked. For Slack, it's how many messages were sent. And then for Netflix, it's how many hours were watched. Probably, like, I'm going to spell out the exact difference between these two, but like, do you see any difference between these two columns here? Just like, just by feel. Like they're different, right? One is a lot more specific.
Mhm.
The other one is much less, yeah, business versus behavior. That's right. One is customer oriented, the other was company oriented. Yep. Cool. Share example of B2B. Yeah, we'll get into that. Cool. So let's see. So, why are the good ones good ones? They typically share some of these traits here. So let's do a counterexample, which we've been talking about for a little while here. Daily active users tells you daily active users is not a good one. Why is that? Because DAUs tells you people showed up. So like they visited something, like they could visit a website, they might have visited like an application or whatever it is. Doesn't say anything about whether they actually got value or not from that product and services. So it's just, hey, they showed up and we count them. So there really is nothing that says, like, unless your core business is for people to just show up, like just show up, regardless, don't do anything, that's fine. It actually doesn't tell you anything in terms of value. That's probably the shallowest thing that you can measure. Now, why is nights booked a good one? If you think a little bit more about it, it actually means a traveler found a place to stay and the host got paid. Like you have two constituents as a company for Airbnb to sort of like provide the services for it. And this one metric captures the value from both sides. Not all metrics is can be sort of like can be like that, but this is almost like a perfect example of just something that touches upon kind of like both sides of the equation if it's a marketplace sort of product. And then just generally, good True North metrics are leading indicators of revenue. Typically, it could be revenue, could be other sort of like company metric that someone on the chat observed before. And it's also a direct signal of customer value. So they got value out of it. And then if you do this really, really well and you move this metric up and to the right or like down and to the right, if that's if that's what the metric form factor is, then we have really good faith that revenue and business outcomes will materialize. Does that make sense for people?
Hey, I had a question in the chat from Nitin around examples of True North for large B2B enterprise. I don't know if you got this one already.
Large B2B
Rather
enterprise.
than consumer tech. So we I
Yeah.
mean we work for our B2B, and so like I can just give you an example from our work because I just typed this out to someone else. So like our product is a legal tech product. It has many products within it. One of the products I work on is called Market Builder. It basically helps lawyers, gives them suggestions and automates a bunch of the edits they do during the contract negotiation process. So edits on a document is what you can think of it as. And we have North Star metrics around basically the time we save them from the start and finish of like a contract comes in and then a contract goes out. But we also have a bunch of guardrails on like the level of quality of those. So it's like a metric that kind of like combines both of those together, and that gets a signal of like, hey, if we're maintaining quality of edits and people are like taking these and actually like a lawyer's reviewing them and not changing much more after it, and it's reducing their time, like those are pretty good signals that that B2B product is working. So I think B2B SaaS is actually pretty good because it relates a lot more to like people's actual like productivity and workflow. Sometimes the consumer tech stuff's hard because it's like engagement, entertainment based. Like, I don't know. Social media North Stars are hard because it's like this person's spending a lot of time on TikTok. Like they must be having a good time, but it's like I don't know if that's really healthy for them. But I don't know. Does that answer your question? And
Yeah, and we'll have an example actually for we all to kind of work through in just a little bit. It's a B2B. Cool.
it's like and then Chitana, it's like so it's I think product adoption is a good signal. Like someone's using the product, adopting it. Like we can infer they're getting value out of it. But if you can, that's like a little south of the North Star metric. Like, well, if you can find something where it's like, hey, what are they doing in the real world? And are we impacting that? Like for my example with the lawyers of like, can we get the timestamp of when we know they like received this document from one of their customers, from one of their clients, and then they sent it back? That's like more of a signal like they're adopting it, and then that adoption is actually causing them to have like a more efficient or higher quality or a lower cost workflow.
Yeah. And once we get to the input metrics side, you're going to see the difference between these two, and you'll understand, for example, like adoption metrics, where does it actually fall? Good question though. All right, cool. So let's move right along. This whole True North metric framework, like it's an iteration. So it's not like hey, once we define something, we have to stick with it forever. That's just not how it works. Metrics is always iterative. So the business changes, the information about the business could change, and we would we would probably understand more of customer behavior as we sort of like, operate a business for longer, or operate a product for longer. So even Netflix, I mean, it says got it wrong first, but it really is like an iteration. They started with something like subscribers added, and then later shifted to hours watched, as we saw in the example slides. Why was subscribers added not useful? Because it didn't really tell them what to do. What about the subscribers? Did you add, quote unquote, kind of like very, very lowly engaged subscribers? Do they actually watch anything? Are people actually, getting value, which probably is entertained by your shows and stuff like that? Like, it's just not clear. It's what we call a vanity metric. Measure something for the sake of measuring stuff. Still useful in the grand scheme of things, but like not for sort of like understanding value that you're delivering as a product or services. So once shifted to hours watched, reflects values delivered. So like again, like are the people entertained? And when it moves, they know that their content strategy is working or not working, and they have a way to understand if that's because of the things that they put out. Okay, cool. So the way to evaluate your True North is it's called 7 test checklist, and we'll send all these out afterwards. Don't worry about taking notes and stuff. I know 7 is a lot, but generally you have 2 criterias. One is practical, one is strategic. So on the strategic side, we've talked quite a bit about some of these angles. Reflects customer value, so not just activity, like not just did they do something, unless that doing something actually leads to value or is actually the value in itself. It leads to hopefully business outcome. I wouldn't say like revenue, but like most likely a business exists to, like to make revenue, to make money. So eventually it leads to that business outcome. It is hard to game. So, like you can imagine if I define my True North be how many clicks on a button on a website, and that's my True North, then that's very easy to game, right? Like I can make it neon, I can make it flash, I can make it bigger, like then people would click more. So something that is hard to game. One number, like this is kind of more creative than it is technical. A number that the whole company or the organization or the team can rally around. So like people, like people feel like they're invested in it. Practical criteria is that it's actionable, so it can actually inform what you can do uh, uh, later down the line. It is understandable, so time and again, I've come across metrics that are defined that are very convoluted. So by the end of explaining what it means, like most people have already checked out. So that's also not good. Measurable, so you can actually measure it. So if the data doesn't exist, or if it's just there's no way to put it in a numbers format, that's probably not practical. Does that make sense here? Cool. Right. Moving right along. Okay, so we have True North metric, and everyone here is an expert at defining that now, or at least knowing the high level framework of it. Let's talk inputs. So, what's input metrics? So teams don't really, I mean, teams do own True North metrics, but then you would have sort of like actual sub teams that own the different inputs. So the levers for moving that True North metric. A very simple example here, and sorry, used another consumer example here, but we'll get into that the B2B example in an exercise in just a little bit. So imagine you are actually, I don't know if Sravya, that's what your company does. Let's call it like Shravya's company has a product called Grammarly, right? Like helping people to write better, be grammatically correct, use AI to refine writing. Uh, I'm just going to make it up. Perhaps her company wants to get as many users to try out the product as possible. So there's a growth team that Sravya is on that basically is responsible for a True North metric called retained signups. So people who don't just sign up, give you an address, email address, and never use the product, but like they actually stuck around for some time after they've signed up for like the Grammarly widget. And so that's a reasonable True North. Now, if you imagine sort of like if we just express that in a very simple equation, what does that actually mean, right? Like you can actually decompose it into the different percentages and rates and stuff to arrive at the exact number here, which is how much traffic can you attract to, for example, Grammarly, and then what's the conversion rate? Because you have to like go through a sign-up flow to do that, right? So you have to first land on Grammarly's website somehow. And then what is the conversion rate on signups from those traffic? And then of the ones that signed up, what is their retention rate? However we define that. First 7 days, first 30 days, doesn't matter. This is basically what it is that helps you get to a retained signups sort of final outcome here. Now, if I were the head of growth, the growth team, and I'm like, okay, move retained signups, I would have no clue how to do that. Like that's like what levers can you actually pull? But when you are able to decompose it a little bit more into, one team responsible, maybe the growth marketing team responsible for driving traffic to the website, and then you have another team that's responsible for making the sign up flow really, really efficient or really, really pretty, then you're optimizing for the middle. And then you have maybe an onboarding team that makes sure for every single new person, they have a really good experience when they onboard to this product. Then they in fact impact the retention rates. You see how these different teams can work together to actually just move their respective inputs, and then the True North would actually move along the way. That's kind of like roughly the structure that we're talking about here, where the True North is the outcome, which sometimes is a lagging indicator. The inputs are the levers that you can actually dial up or down by the effort that you put in. And then each team knows exactly what they're influencing. So like the growth marketing team knows that they need to drive traffic. The onboarding team knows that when somebody signs up, I need to give them a really great experience. And that's all they focus on. So when all these things sort of like, or even not all of them, like even one team is killing it and the other teams do nothing, your True North still moves.
The thing with input metrics, why we don't just have input metrics, why we need, because like right, like you could think like, oh, traffic, sign up, conversion, retention rate. Those are my North Stars. Input metrics, these ones are pretty straightforward, but like say you're like building a product, sometimes there can be like highly gameable.
Yeah.
So I mean, even something like, yeah, traffic. I don't know if you're just like getting traffic like by like bots, like Hai said, or by like paid traffic, or by like email blasts that's like people are coming in once, but then they're not retaining, then it's working against all of those other input metrics. And so your North Star metric won't actually go up. So the North Star metric is like a really nice way to validate of like, hey, is this actually a strong input metric, or is the input metric too gameable?
Yep, good point. Cool. Again, not, I mean, like most metrics don't decompose so nicely. I'll be honest here. It's very rare that you get something that decomposes into like an exact equation where you just dial up, dial down, and like you know exactly what the True North is going to do. A lot of it is sometimes you have to have faith, sometimes you have to have proxies, and that's all okay. The idea really is like we understand from a like intentionally that the metrics that we choose, we have faith that it actually could move True North. It passes the smell test. It passes the sort of like the gut check.
Hey, I had a couple of good questions in the chat.
Yep.
One, maybe get through this one first, and then from Nitin again. So all these metrics have like cost to maintain and also cost of resources to like argue about them and have meetings around. Do you have any rule of thumb for like the max number of metrics a team should be. I guess it
Max.
probably depends on the size and stuff like that, but it's pretty good valid question.
Yeah, it is. No exact rule of thumb, but you can imagine 100 is too many. One is probably not enough. So I'm not gonna say like it's somewhere in the middle. It is somewhere in the middle. Uh, the point that you've raised is actually a really valid one. How much attention can you hold while you can still not go crazy with these numbers?
What did the
That's
kids
that's
do? Six,
that's
7? Is that the is
oh,
that appropriate? That's kind of an appropriate use of this.
6 or 7, 6 or 7. That seems fine.
One
I
thing, sorry, go ahead.
I was to say, like, I think something that I do, like, kind of like what I said before, like, take your input metrics, see which ones have the highest impact on your North Star metric, and also have like you get the highest leverage to move. So basically, most ROI, and then you can kind of like make a list. And some of that you can use data to do. Sometimes you can talk to experts. Sometimes it's just intuition. And you can like prioritize them, and then maybe instead of capping the metrics, cap your meetings or whatever, where it's like, hey, we're going to go through this stuff. Like we're going to get through these really important ones first, or we're going to have our team assigned to moving these really important ones first. Kind of, it's more of like a resource problem and just like prioritization at that level.
Um, Another thing that I'd like to add to Sean is that once you get into war rooms of why your North Star metric dropped, you'll know what are the main reasons why your North Star metric dropped. You go to the metric tree and see what affects your North Star metric most. The more and more we get into those modes to understand why your North Star metric moved, you'd understand what are the top metrics that influence it. One other thing I wanted to add on the questions, I think JY, I don't see their name. Their question was about having weekly, like 7 days, like how do we have it time bounded, the metric, 7 days, 21 days, like, and they were also asking questions about Q1, like in different quarters, like how do you do that? So I had a short answer there. Not sure if it was helpful, but wanted to give like a live understanding of what I meant. Based on the type of product, if you are a daily product, let's say you expect a user to come to see and look at the feed on a daily basis, like Instagram, for example, I would say that's a daily metric. If you have a weekly product where you see like work week, almost like you have users, you think like a project management platform or something like that, that would be a 7 days. And if you think it's a monthly like tax tooling, something I think Pinterest used to do monthlies as well, where you expect like it's event based or something that's related where people come in once a month and that's good enough, then that's a monthly product for you. And there's also like a question about A/B test. Like it's a very good question. It has tons of things in line. So we'll probably do a bigger deep dive in our course later. But to answer in short, A/B tests are time bounded by the test itself. So you would have metrics for the test. Basically, based on how long the test is, you have metrics to measure the metrics within that A/B test. Yeah.
Cool. And then for like a dental practice, it might be a 6 month thing because like that's or quarterly probably. So that's very different. All depends on the context of your business and product that you offer. Okay, cool. So moving right along. Love all the questions, by the way. That's you guys are awesome. All right, cool. Did we go through this slide? No. Okay, so how do you actually choose inputs? Like how do you find your input metrics? A this is sort of like the what I was alluding to a little earlier. The BDEF framework. Probably a better acronym than this, but generally you can imagine most of the input metrics that you can think of would probably feed into one of these categories. So the first one is breadth. So how many people, like how broad are we talking about? And again, using Airbnb as an example here, it could be active listings or it could not be number of guests. So like how broad generally are we measuring something? So that could be a flavor of an input. Um, Depth is the second one, which is how much per user or per customer kind of metric. So in the case of Airbnb, it's average booking value or how many average number of nights per booking, like things like that. So it gets into like just like how deep you go in terms of providing the inputs. And then the third is an efficiency metric. So like I guess how smoothly or how much time is saved, things like that. Or like what is conversion rate? So this would be Airbnb's case when you search for a place to stay, how likely are you to actually book it once it's surfaced to you? So efficiency is on that. And then number 4 is just frequency. So how many times has this been done? And just how broad is the sort of like repeat behavior is. So these are sort of like these almost encompass kind of like all the inputs that you can imagine. And so it's one way to sort of like put it in a framework around okay, my input belongs to this bucket here. Okay, cool. Let's see. Okay, so we actually get to this B2B exercise here. So diagnose this metric. So a product manager at a team collaboration tool. So think Asana, Monday.com, or Trello. So hopefully you're all at least familiar with some of these products. Or maybe like, does anyone have no idea what these are? Type it 2, if that's the case. Okay, so everyone knows. Great. So project management software or tool. And this product manager comes and says, hey, our metric is monthly active users, and we want to grow it. What is wrong with this metric? Real quick type in chat. Frequency is off. Vanity. Nice. No business value. Nitin, showing up is not useful for a collaboration tool? Doesn't reflect value. Yep. Cool. Great. Awesome. So yes, exactly. So problem with this, why it fails, everybody got it. Doesn't capture value. People can show up and do nothing. And as a collaboration tool, what does that actually mean? Like it means nothing. They didn't get any value out of it. It's vanity. So yeah, like I think Sarah said it. Oh no, it's Yogesh. No one knows what to do with this metric. It just is. You can't really move the needle on MAU here. So like not in face value at least. So yes, you all got it. This is a bad metric. All right. So what's an improved version of it? So an example improved version of this collaboration tool could be that the True North could be team projects completed per week, right? Like without even going into the detail of what that even means, like how do you measure a team project? What is a completion? And like per week, is it 7 days? Is it like the Monday to Saturday or whatever it is? You can feel that this is different, right? This gets more specific and existed if your idea is to be a tool, you actually help people complete something, right? And then the inputs to this metric could be any of these following, or it could be more. So on the breadth side could be active teams with a shared project. On the depth side could be tasks completed per project. So if you imagine collaboration tools, you probably have a lot of checkboxes on things assigned out to different people, and like checking them done is actually a good thing. It could be efficiency, so measuring the time from project creation to first task completion, that itself is pretty valid, like how many people are actually taking the project seriously or taking the tool seriously, using it to track. It could be frequency. So weekly active collaborators on the project itself. Like any of these could be really, really good inputs to this much more refined True North versus sort of like just monthly active users. Cool. And you can imagine if these were sort of like defined, like teams are going to be able to know, or people, teams, or are going to be able to know, like what their role is in moving this True North. Okay. Cool. Okay. Quick quiz. Best True North for a food delivery app. Think DoorDash or Grab or Uber Eats, something like that. One, two, three, or four. Give everyone 15 seconds here. Think what's the value? A lot of ones, twos. Yeah, this is a hard one. Three, average order value, two. What does it mean by success and failure in one? Great question. I don't know. So I mean, we can define it however we want. So assume it's a order actually delivered to the client or the customer, and then how many orders were ordered or placed. Okay, cool, great. So a lot of mostly centered on one and twos. Drum roll. Let me find a button here. Okay, answer is number two. Orders delivered per month. Why is that? So if you remember on True North metric a few slides ago, what we're after is driving the outcome or deliver the customer value that we want. So for a food delivery app, you can imagine if we actually deliver the order, then the sort of like the transaction ends, right? Like the value is delivered. Like people are placing order and they get it and they can eat. So why is number one not a good or I guess number one is not actually not a good True North, depending on your team, but it can be a very good input. So delivery success rate is a ratio. So you can double your order and the rate stays flat and it would look like nothing changes unless your team or your organization's True North is to actually drive efficiency on, like making sure that the orders are not dropped in any way or form, shape or form. Why is three not the best metric here? Average order value. I think some of you picked that. It's depth. So going back to the BDEF framework thing, this is one of the more like how many like yeah like something per something sort of measurements. And then for weekly active customers, it's again, it's not value delivered. Like customers can show up, but if we fail, they can place an order, but if we fail to deliver to them, they didn't actually get the value. They could be placing a lot of orders, but it would actually lead to really pissed off customers. Cool. Yes, one is an input. All right, cool. This is really a hard one. I made sure to make this not as straightforward. The other ones are all like MAUs and stuff.
And like when you work with your team to do this, like there's kind of like brainstorms and stuff you can do, but it is hard to land on these. Like someone asked earlier in the chat, how often do you revisit it? And I feel like when a team is first wrapping their heads around like what's our North Star, it's like I feel like the first month to 3 months, it's like you every other week, like, oh shit, like actually we're gonna do a different metric. And like, you're reporting these to people high up, and so it's kind of awkward. Like every 2 weeks, like, oh, we changed our metric again. But I think that's just part of the process. Like take that first quarter with like the understanding of like it's not going to be perfect. We're going to try some things out and like learn what makes sense, and then like you'll revisit more and more.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really hard knitting with new products that don't have historical data. A lot of that's talking to hopefully you have like some like co devs or beta users or a small sample. Like a lot of that's talking to users. for prospective users.
Yeah. And if you have no baseline, it's cool.
Yeah.
Trust your gut. It's fine. Go from there. Got to start somewhere and iterate. Probably the iteration window is going to be shorter. But like you have to start somewhere.
I shouldn't say this as a data scientist because it like is not good for getting data scientist jobs, but it's like if you have a brand new product, like you probably don't need data scientists also. If there's no data, like you probably
That's
don't need them yet.
That is true. And I saw a question around what about total order value delivered? That's a really good one. It's actually in a very similar vein as something like total signups. So the number can only go up and to the right. So like like only one direction sort of metrics is typically not suitable for a true north because everything you do, it's only going to go up or at worst stay flat. So it doesn't actually give you a measurement of the state of value that you're providing, whether it's going up over time or going down over time. Good question, though. Okay, cool. Let's move right along. Okay, transition to AI demo. So at the end of this, as a follow-up to this session, I will be sending you all this deck and also a couple prompts for any of your favorite chatbots, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, anything that you can actually practice with based on what we talked about today. All right, cool. Let's to the next one. Yes, so we have a couple free workshops coming up. These are the most immediate two that's happening. So if you're interested, certainly like scan the code or go to the links. We have one tomorrow that Sean is hosting on designing experiments for AI features. And then next week, we're really excited about this one, which is analyze data with Claude Code Opus 4.6. We have a lot of really exciting and I would say almost pioneering materials around actually how to effectively use AI to do all the analysis work as much as possible. Meaning like and I'll actually show some of that later on like just delegating the execution work to AI and have faith that it actually knows what it's doing. So we're super excited about these sessions and certainly sign up. They're free and they're happening in the next week or two.
One other plug. So like how probably show you lots of like links and stuff. If you just go to aianalystlab.ai, I dropped the link in chat. Pretty much everything's on there. It's like that's like the directory. Like all our courses are on there. All our free workshops are on there. We have like free email courses. We have a podcast. We have blogs. We're gonna post like analyses up there too. So if you just want one link, aianalystlab.ai is the link.
There you go.
A
That was
bunch.
coded up 2 days ago, and this deck did not incorporate that yet.
And a bunch of things to rewind regarding all our, like everything, everywhere you could touch us on. We are on LinkedIn, all of us, Sravya, Hi, and Sean. We post a bunch about all our research in the Claude Code and, AI analyst area. We have a bunch of free workshops coming up. We have two courses. The first one is about the AI analytics for builders. And you could find about that as well in on Maven. You could also find about that in like AI Analyst Lab.ai that Sean shared. And we also have another course coming up, which is going into the depths of how do you incorporate Claude Code 4.6 into your daily data science and analytics, or even as a PM or as like anyone working with data, how do you incorporate these workflows, the AI workflows into your day to day? So if you have any questions about those courses and want to understand more if that's a right fit, you could set up some time with me, and I could just help you understand like if are those courses a good fit for you or not, and we can go from there. Yeah.
Yeah, cool, nice. All right, cool. We're not gonna have time to do the actual demo, but I'll send you all the prompts and stuff. We have a couple prompts where it helps you. It kind of acts as a coach to help you refine and iterate on metrics, and it will ask you very similar questions that we went through on the framework. And so you can always run through your specific business, your specific service, specific product, and what you're thinking about against it. So what we're doing is, so this is like the demo output if we were to do it in ChatGPT. I actually have it here, but we just don't have time for it. It'll show you sort of like, hey, is this failing at this step? Is this failing at here? Is it actionable and things like that? And it'll help you it'll give you suggestions for how to really think about it beyond what you proposed. Cool. I do want to leave some question or some time for Q&A, so I'm gonna end in the next couple of slides. So remember, your True North metric is the outcome that you're measuring, and all the inputs that we went through are the levers that you can pull to actually measure it or to actually influence it. So this chain has to be very clear to you in terms of the cause and the effect. So learn the framework and then let AI help you move faster. That's the tagline.
Hey, and I know we're only got 5 minutes. I can stay over like 30 minutes. If High and Sravya, if you got bounce, no worries. But I can also stay over for folks.
Yeah, so nice. So Sean will stay for Q&A, and certainly feel free to connect with any of us, and we can chat more. We have a free Slack community on just AI builders generally who are interested in analytics, AI, and just sharing knowledge, sharing discussions, all free. Feel free to join us. We share a lot of free resources and knowledge on that as well. bit.ly/AI Connect. The Slack community. Okay, and Sravya have gone through this quite a bit. So we have this AI analytics build for builders course where we go in a lot more depth around some of the, this is one of probably the 60, 70, and 80, 90 lessons that we have planned. So we're going to help. Our goal is to help people to become analytically independent. What that means is knowing how to ask the right questions, think like a seasoned data scientist or data analyst would do, and then be able to delegate execution of those work to AI and actually get very, very good results. That's our promise and that's our goal. 5-week training starting in April for this group and the Lightning Lesson attendees. We have a 25% off promo code for you. You can scan the QR code or go to bit.ly/AI analytics builders, and that'll get you all started. And feel free to connect with again with any of us. Okay, cool. So that's my last slide. We're gonna go into Q&A, but before that, I want to show you a few of the things that we've been doing. And then
Hey, before you get into that, Hi, or you can open that up. There's another thing that we just created this week that's brand new. It's a boot camp. It's a weekend boot camp. It doesn't go into the whole like analytical thinking framework like this one does. If you are like familiar with kind of like analytical framework and analytical thinking already, but you just want to like get set up in Claude Code for data analysis, like effectively building like your own AI analyst in Claude Code. We're gonna do a 2-day workshop. It's like a weekend workshop. It's gonna be 4 hours each day. This is new because basically we tested this out. We weren't really able to do this very well like a month ago, but with Opus 4.6 coming out, it's like really remarkable what it can do now. So that's why we're kicking off this new boot camp. If you take the boot camp and then you want to take the full course later, we'll just subtract whatever you paid on the boot camp out of the full course tuition. But yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting way to get your feet wet if you just want to do like the technical aspect of it. And by technical, it's like set up Claude Code and speak English to it. You don't even have to type. It's not like you're coding. So it's pretty interesting. Happy to chat more with that. If you go on LinkedIn and like look at some of the stuff me and Hi and Sravya have been posting about this week, I've been sharing a lot of the learnings on that.
Yeah, totally. And that's a good segue into something that I wanted to show you guys. These are from the AI analyst that we built and that we will help you figure out how to actually do it yourself. This is a full deck, the presentation included, like the actual deck and the imagery and the charts and stuff included. This is like the very early iteration of this AI analyst. It would basically incorporate all the best practices and like figure out all the logic, all the reasoning, things like that. So, this one is done on my own my own real estate business. And so this data has never been seen. And then here's one that Sean did test it out on sort of like public data from Hawaii tourism. And then it gave us a basically what's wrong with tourism in Hawaii, almost one shot. It does its own checks, understands what insights to pull from, and then what you can do about it. We actually tagged a Hawaiian tourism board to share this with them on LinkedIn as well. And then finally, this is the latest iteration of our AI analyst, just hot off the shelf this morning. This is an interactive HTML presentation. So the other ones were PDFs. This one you can actually navigate on campsite data. Again, public data, pretty niche. But you can imagine this deck helps you understand if you were to book a campsite, because I had to do it, how do I do it strategically? And what's the timing and where should I go? So, and I can't really demo it here, but like this button, when I click it, it also has presenter notes, like exactly what I should be saying at each slide. That's included in this output from our AI analyst. We did not write any code. We did not write any code. We did not write any of these slides. We didn't do any of the formattings. We didn't do any of the recommendations or takeaways at the end. All of this is AI. So we really think it's a game changer with Opus 4.6 from Claude, and we want to make it accessible to everybody.
One thing, like just to emphasize, like we're not selling a product or anything. Like we're just gonna give you the repo like that we have, but like you can build this yourself. That's what the boot camp's about. It's about building an AI analyst in Claude Code that is extremely specific to your use case and your data and what you want to accomplish. And like I'm gonna post about this later, but it's kind of insane. You can actually seed this in such a way where you have like a right now we have like a 60,000 line code repo that does all this. What I tested last night was effectively creating like a single markdown file that's like a genome or a seed and give it to Claude Code where it just and feed it like what I want to do and give it my data and it's like go build the data team for me. And over like several hours, it just spun up a bunch of agents and started expanding itself to like rebuild from scratch its own, but now specific to a different use case I'm working with. So that's kind of what we're going to teach here. Um, I mean, if we're doing a free workshop on this next Friday, and I'll just give you the link to the repo then too for the free one, and you can fork it. But that's what the boot camp's about. I'm not trying to like, I don't know. I'm not trying to go like build Tableau or something, but we're hoping to like help people enable themselves to build things like that themselves.
Yep, totally. And I haven't written code in a long time. So my day job is to manage. That's basically all I do. But I feel like I'm now able to replicate something that I was able to do and do it faster, better, and more efficiently. So
And
that's
another example that's not here is so 13 years ago I did Microsoft internship and I got a case study that was sent to me to and it took 3 days back then that got me the actual on-site interview into Microsoft. I could replicate that in 45 minutes with Cloud Code and that too with the previous version. With the newer version, Sean, I need to try the one that you changed. Probably it's even it's going to take even way less time, but it's incredible how much we could get done with Opus 4.6. And we are glad that we are able to test this ourselves and we could teach you guys too.
cool. Awesome. So we didn't get into dedicated Q&A time, but Sean's going to be here to take questions from any of you who wants to stay over. I need to hop, unfortunately, for a meeting, but thank you all for attending this. This has been great, and thank you for all the engagement. I look forward to speaking with you hopefully soon.
Same here,
Yeah,
everyone.
sorry. Any questions? All right, let me read your thing here, Maxine. The course is mainly teaching senior level DS workflows. How do you recommend students hunting entry level positions? This on their resume or in the interviews? Hmm. Yeah, so I think for okay, so I think for your question, Maxime, I think the 5 week course gets into a lot of this stuff. So the 5 week course, just to kind of break it down for you, it's like the first week is more like analytical thinking, kind of like the thing that Hai went through here, where he's teaching you how to frame questions and build metrics and a lot of other stuff. Like these are just like core skills around analytical thinking. The second week is getting set up with Claude Code and potentially um, some other AI analytics platforms like Hex or something. Weeks 3 and 4 are then getting into like drivers analysis and causal inference. Like we're going to teach those actual concepts, but then we'll show you how to implement them in like with the help of AI, but we're going to teach the concepts themselves in that one. And then week 5 is around like, okay, how do I like storytell and provide a narrative and bring this to like, my manager or my exec and like get shit done basically. So that's still like that course isn't like hand it all off to AI. It's more like how do I do the end-to-end data science workflow, but hand off a lot of some of the technical components to make it faster. Um, the boot camp in itself is a lot more of that, like, okay, let's work with you to like build our own like AI analyst or data team within Claude Code. We're not going to go into the kind of like analytical frameworks there, but we're going to go a lot deeper into Claude Code itself. I don't know if that answers your question. Cool. What's the repo you were talking about? We're gonna share it in our free workshop. Let me see if I can pull up the link to the free workshop. I need to clean it up a little bit before I share it out. But yeah, it's just the repo for our that we have like built like the AI analyst in. So it has basically like 20 like different agents, like agents that are like UX experts versus like storytelling experts for like versus like driver analysis versus like causal inference experts. And then it has like a bunch of Claude Code skills that are already created. And then it has a bunch of like helper functions in Python for like making all of like the beautiful charts that Hai showed, as well as like how to like knit together into a PDF. Um, so we're gonna share that repo if people want to just like fork it and use it. But I think what's more interesting in the bootcamp is like building it from scratch yourself, because then it's like hyper tailored to your use case and like the brand of your company and what you're trying to work on. But let me try and pull up the free lightning lesson for you, and I'll drop the link. We'll share the repo once we can kind of walk through it in this and do a big demo. And that lightning lesson is going to be like a 2 hour thing next Friday. And we didn't you saw we didn't really like reserve as much time for Q&A at the end here. We try to get to them during it, but that one will really try and do 1 hour walkthrough, 1 hour full Q&A. Okay, that should be the link to the free workshop. No problem. Any other questions? The other thing, I read a blog post on this weekend of what we were talking about. So you can also check this out. The title is somewhat clickbaity, uh, replacing your data team, but you gotta do what you gotta do for SEO. Oh, nice. You saw it already. Okay, cool. Other questions? No worries if there's not other questions. I'm gonna hang around for I can hang around for 22 minutes, but okay, here we go. 0 to 1 stage. When's the optimal time to define your North Star metric? I think so. I mean, in the 0 to 1 stage, you're kind of probably already defining North Star metric without actually defining the metric itself, because you're probably talking a lot about like, why are we even building this thing? Like, what's the problem we're trying to solve for a user? Um, so I think you're probably already having a lot of that conversation in terms of like what value you're bringing to the user. Uh, Now you might not have data to actually like create a formal metric that you're going to put in a dashboard or a SQL query or a Google Sheet or whatever, but you can still like have that kind of user value statement and then be interviewing users, or even it's like with the team, like having like sessions where you're working through your product and seeing if it's actually hitting that. I think in terms of like, so you already have that. I think it's really good to think about that early on. You're probably already doing that. And then eventually, when you start collecting data, or when you're like ready to collect data, like if you're like have the product out in front of someone, have your team think as much as possible is like, what do we need to create within the product where we can like get some reflection of that user value? Like you might have to build something. You might have to like make a workflow or a timestamp or something that doesn't exist yet that can actually kind of like give you signal around that, and then instrument that data like as early as possible. So then once you have it like collecting and flowing through, you can naturally translate that into a metric. Um, did that kind of answer your question, Yogesh?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, John.
Sweet. What else? What other questions? What do you think about aha habit moments? Are they input metrics for North Star metric? Should we validate input metrics that they actually impact North Star? Or aha habit moments? Do you mean like the thing that's like, I don't know, Facebook had like they're like once someone has like 7 friends or something, there's like some like trigger. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I think that's like goals. I think that's like you have your North Star metric, or maybe it's your input metric. Input metric. I think it's probably like a goal of like that you're trying to reach rather than. But I think it does relate to North Star metric. Could relate to input metric too. So actually, what I've done in my work with input metrics is I have looked at historical data and looked at the relationship between one of my input metrics, like around like say like the quality of our AI outputs, and then one of our North Star metrics, like the time saved from someone using this feature. And I plot those together after I do like some kind of like regression analysis to like basically uh, control for everything else going on. So I know the real relationship between those two. And then I see like, okay, what's the point at which like increasing quality, which is my input metric, suddenly gets a spike, like like more increment for every incremental increase in quality, I get even more and even more incremental increases in my like North Star metric. That's like I think a reference point around like, oh, someone's having the aha moment right then. And then you can follow that all that kind of relationship all the way back even to see like some sort of like uh deceleration when people no longer get like incremental gain if you put more into the input metric. And that's like that might be a signal to like, oh, let's look at a different input metric to move the North Star. But yeah, I think so. I guess to go back to your question, what do you think about the aha habit moments? I think they may be the key milestones along an input metric that have significant increases to the North Star metric. So that's like what teams might goal around. Like, okay, this quarter, we want to get this input metric to X because we know that means we'll hit that aha moment, or that means we'll hit some deceleration of like the ahas or whatever, and we should focus on something else. Does that make sense, Sergio? Cool. What else? Got 17 minutes. I'll let it be awkwardly silent when I'm here for 2 minutes as if people think of stuff, and then we can drop. What else is going on? Is anyone here in California? So I live in Tahoe, and it was straight up dirt on the ground 2 days ago, and now I have 4 feet of snow that I'm looking out my window. Sorry, I'm just trying to kill the silence. But man, that's a crazy storm. Where did I learn to apply these analytics frameworks? Oh, before your first data related role. Oh yeah. I did not yeah, I didn't learn these in school at all. I learned through a lot of failure early on in probably the first 5 years of my career, where I was like doing analysis and like analysis that like VPs or directors or someone asked for, and I would work on some shit for like 2 months and deliver it to them, and they're just like, "Oh, that's interesting," and then nothing would happen. And it's just like I think I got sick and tired of it because it was like, okay, my stuff's not getting implemented, but then that also impacts stuff like your promotions and raises and all that stuff, because it's like even if you're working hard, even if you're smart, like if you're not having impact, which I think a lot of these analytical frameworks basically like force you to do analyses that you know action will come out of and impact will come out of, then like it's really hard to progress in your career. So I don't know, like I think part of it was me getting like sick of it and like switching to a different mindset. I think it's really helpful to have mentors. So like I've worked with Hai, who earlier you obviously who did this presentation for about 6 years now. He's like a really good mentor to me. I had some other managers and mentors and also like colleagues. I think a lot of it's just like learning on the job and with other people. But if like your whole goal is just like, I got to set myself up for making it actionable, like what are the frameworks that can get me to do that? Um, that's some of the best way of learning, but it's really, I think it's pretty hard to learn beforehand. But if you know this stuff, a lot of it's going to show up really well in your interviews. Like all these frameworks, it's just like ways of thinking would resonate very well in the interviews. Sravya just did something the other day that actually, so she's doing a session next week or the week after that is like leveraging AI to help with product sense interviews or something. All right, let me find the link for this one because this one might be good for you. This is another free one. Crack product sense in analytics interviews with AI. Okay. Interview. Writing lesson. All right. This is one. So Sravya's been working this. So Sravya is a senior manager in data science. She's interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people over her career. And she was just like playing around with Claude the other day to like help create like an interview kind of like simulation or interview like training partner. I think it actually, I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of a nice way to like you can do like simulate mode and see how it would work through a problem, or you can like test it against yourself. This is just like a little fun side thing she was doing, but maybe go to that. She'd be able to answer some good questions for you too. Saying hi from Berkeley, nice. How do you see the future for the data analyst? What should we do learn? Should we switch to data engineering or product management? Dude, man, the plumber thing, like I'm seriously thinking about it. My brother was looking into it a few months ago. Like being a plumber is actually like you have to do this whole like apprenticeship thing. Is actually kind of hard to get into. Um, I don't know though. Seriously, like things that we do with our hands like could be very important. How do I actually envision it though? Uh, I mean, I think product management is a pretty good route. I think we'll see a lot of people kind of taking on a lot of the skills of the product manager. I think thinking like a product manager does you a lot of benefit if you're a data analyst or data scientist working in product. Like you basically want to, like for me, it's like I want to basically do a product manager's job, but I want to be slightly more technical and I don't want to deal with as many meetings or like talking to as many people. Like, I don't know. That's what I like about being a product data scientist. Anyways, I think product managers will actually come out pretty good on top there, like especially technical PMs. I think a lot of product data scientists will kind of like they'll kind of mesh together into like technical PMs. The other thing I was talking to Hai about as we were building this data analyst thing with Claude Code is I think it's going to be like people, data scientists, and analysts who build systems rather than fully doing the analysis themselves. So if you can build like systems of agents and that can like solve the right questions for you, I think that kind of evolves into the job. It's like managing data agents, but it's pretty hard to tell. If you asked me like kind of like 3 months ago, even like, yeah, even like a few weeks ago before this Opus 4.6 thing, I would have been like, oh, there's a lot of stuff AI can't do yet. But um, I don't know if that answers your question. I'm still trying to figure that out too, to be honest. I think a lot of people are actually, yeah, nobody knows. But I mean, I don't know, like plumber could be a good route. I was like firefighter, right? Like in Tahoe, like fires aren't going out of style, like more fires every year. So they're going to need more people in that industry. What else? What other questions? Got 10 minutes left. Awkward silence. Trying to think of anything to talk about. You guys watched that new Game of Thrones show that's coming out on HBO? Been watching that. Pretty good. Last episode was pretty crazy. I chose anti-gravity because it was free. But I mean, honestly, so yeah, I guess here was my workflow. I was using Cursor at first and with Claude Code also. And then I kind of liked having them both because I could talk to Cursor, any model in Cursor, and it's not eating up tokens like Claude Code does. And then I was like, oh, I'll switch over to anti-gravity because it's free. Um, and I don't have to pay for the Cursor subscription. Um, and then over time, though, I ended up just like not really caring that Claude Code was eating up my tokens and don't even really use the agent anti-gravity anyways. So I don't know if you necessarily do that. You could just probably do VS Code, but I don't know. Anti-gravity is pretty good. They're probably just going to make it better too. But any of these products could work, like Windsurf or Cursor or anti-gravity or whatever other ones there are. Other questions? Oh man, yeah, the OpenClaw thing is pretty interesting. I was just starting to mess around with setting it up there night, but I don't want to put it on my own computer. So I'm going to buy like a MacBook Mini or something to put it on. Oh yeah, Docker container is a good idea. I haven't set it up yet. I've watched some YouTube videos on it, but it does, I don't know, it does get me thinking because like like one of my limitations right now is like I'll be like trying to work with these agents and it's like, okay, I gotta go do something right now that I can't really be in front of a computer anymore with. It would be nice to like have them keep talking to them and having the AI analyst like keep going. Like if I'm on the treadmill or something, it'd be pretty cool. I just like talk into my phone to Telegram and then like get it going still. I haven't tried it out yet though. My meeting calendar is like getting insane though, so I at least want to set it up for that kind of organization around like meetings and Gmail kind of stuff. I think as like kind of like a personal like assistant, I think could help. But I have been thinking a little bit about it. I don't know if you've messed around with it. product-driven companies in the Bay Area hire DS because the execs themselves do see clear, tangible impact from having a team of data scientists in the company? Or is it sometimes more about having enough budget to take the risk? I think it totally depends on the company. I mean, I think definitely like people realize that like to make better and better decisions, we need to have someone like work with the data to like show us some proof, but we also need someone who is like understands the product and is a business, has like some business mindset so they can like, basically create all like the correct metrics like how I talked about today. I do know companies that straight up have just been like, we're at the stage where we have enough money to buy a data team now. Let's go get a data team. And they have no idea how they're going to use data, but they just know like people say data driven and we should do it. And then they like hire the wrong people, get a kind of shitty team. So like there's definitely that vibe going on too. I mean, I think at the end of the day though, people are like, I want to make decisions and I want to reduce the uncertainty as much as possible so I can make the best decision and I can prioritize my decision making. And that's a lot of the function of the data science team. We'll be interested to see like, I don't necessarily think like just like a data scientist has to do that. I think like if people like have access to data that they can trust and they know how to like make the right metrics and how to like apply the framework, then other folks could do that too. I feel like that's kind of like the core benefit of having the team right now. Definitely there's people that just do it because they have the budget for sure. What else? Got 5 more minutes. I think we may have exhausted the questions. Okay, if you have other questions, feel free to ask them in that Slack community. I'll post the link one more time. Thanks for joining the session. This was awesome. You guys were really interactive and asked really good questions. I had a pretty good time hanging out with you all. Okay, so here's the Slack link again. You can DM me there or like drop in the channel. So this is a pretty new Slack group. We're like trying to wake it up right now. We don't have like a community manager or anything. So we're trying to figure it out. There's kind of 2 main channels. One's like AI analytics and one's AI evals. So if you have like questions around either those topics, like just ask them in there, I think broadly, and then we can try and see if we can get more people talking about it, but we'll answer for sure. And then, yeah, I mean, you can just DM me on LinkedIn as well if you don't want to like be messing around with Slack and you just want to talk there. That's cool too. Sweet. Well, thanks everyone again thank you all for staying over 30 minutes. Really appreciate it. And thanks for all the great questions and being engaged. Hope you all have a great rest of your day and hope that we talk again soon. And maybe I'll see some of you next week in that workshop that Sravya is doing around like interviews or the Claude Code workshop. See you, everyone.